All right, here is the lovely Michelle Phillips, who has written a book, her reminiscences about the mamas and the papas in the tumultuous 60s and into the 70s and what's going on in her life now. It's called California Dreaming, and there they all are right on the cover. The true stories of the mamas and the papas, one of the great groups whose music is still being sold and sung today. Nice to have you on the show,
Thank you,
Michelle.
Regis.
Yeah. I was there when you made that segue into acting. I was reviewing movies out at ABC, and I remember, was the picture with the Nureyev your first?
My second.
Your second. It was right at the beginning of your
Yeah, it was my second, I think. I think I
career.
did Dillinger first with Warren Oates and Ben Johnson,
Yeah.
and then I did Valentino.
It came very easy to you, this acting thing, didn't it?
Well, I love acting. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, you know, it was kind of a natural progression for me.
Sure. And that's what you're doing now, of course, right? Acting.
That's right.
Let's go back to the old days, though. Incidentally, John, your ex-husband, John Phillips, was just through here a couple of weeks ago with his version of the Mamas and the Papas. And what happened? I mean, was this a coincidence that two books would come out at the same time about the group?
No, he was just being mean. He knew that I was writing the book. I got special permission from John and Denny and Cass's estate to write the book, because I didn't want anyone to be upset.
Mm-hmm.
If I wrote it, I said, let's do this as a project that we're all going to be involved with. Great. Go ahead, Mitch. Go write the book.
And then he decided to write
And
his.
then he went ahead and cut himself a deal, as we say,
Uh-huh.
and went ahead and wrote his own book. And I was furious.
Wow.
But after a while, and especially after I read his book, I realized that his is a very different book than mine.
Very different, and also more of a personal end of it. You're writing about the whole group and what happened to you as a group, and I think John's is more of a personal story.
What happened to Papa John, yeah.
Yeah,
which is
quite a
you know,
story.
It's a harrowing story, and I really wanted to concentrate on the group and, you know, what happened to us as a group.
And some story as well. It all begins in the 60s. What year was it exactly?
The Mamas and Papas started in 1965.
65, right at the beginning of the whole Vietnam experience and that whole scene as well.
That's right.
And what was the first hit that we had?
California Dreamin.
California Dreaming. Yeah. Was that the biggest of them all?
No, Monday Monday was bigger than California Dreamin.
Monday Monday.
I would imagine that Monday Monday was probably the biggest record that we had.
Was it tough to write everything?
Well, yes. You know, a lot happened. A lot happened within the group when I was fired and rehired. And, I hadn't realized how much I had swept under the rug out of necessity, because I couldn't have come back into the group grumbling and, you know, about the past.
Right.
I had to really come in smiling and ready to start fresh, because I was on probation, kind of.
And
so
all...
I didn't realize how much emotional stuff I had really swept under the rug and forgotten about.
Until you have to sit down and write about it, and then it all comes back.
And you start talking about it again, and there were many tears shed writing this book.
Yeah.
But a lot of laughs too.
That's good.
You know, it was a funny story. Basically, there might have been some moments that were painful for me to relive, but I'm glad that I did it, and it was fun for me.
Well, I think you're quite honest about, you know, the drug scene that was going on. It was almost inevitable in those days. And the romances that you had while you were married, while you weren't married, and so on. Was that tough,
They
too?
were great.
Had a good time, huh, Michelle?
I love romance. No, it was, you know, a different era. It was a different time. And the drugs that we're referring to were different than what we talk about today. Or what John even talks about. You know, when we took drugs, we were taking psychedelics, and we were looking for a better place. We were trying to expand our minds and find religion. And
yeah, you were really experimenting, weren't you?
It was a different kind of experimenting than I think that we associate with drug taking today.
John really got hooked bad into it, though.
John, after the group, got into hard drugs and dove into them. And it was a disaster.
What about for you personally? Any trouble overcoming this? Because I know you're clean now, but
well,
I mean...
I never took any hard drugs. I don't consider psychedelics hard drugs, first of all. But, and I also do not recommend that people take psychedelics. I think it's something that you either did in the 60s or you should just forget about it. They are very powerful.
Yeah.
And used improperly can be very dangerous.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at some of the pictures in the book because they're always fun to reminisce with. Our first picture is John and your dog.
And Pio.
Is it just before you were married, right?
This was the day that we announced to John's mother that we were getting married.
And you're...
We were in Washington, D.C., or in Alexandria, Virginia, actually.
And you're 17 or 18 at the time?
I was 18 in this picture. Don't we look like the most suburban couple you've ever seen?
Fresh out of Connecticut with the little dog in your hands there. All right, the mamas and the papas now in the pool.
Yeah, this was in Bel Air, at our house in Bel Air. This was well into the group success. As a matter of fact, this was from a photo session for the third album cover, which was called The Mamas and Papas Deliver, which was called that because Cass was just about to deliver in this picture.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
And speaking of Cass, here she is in the daisies. Whoa, Mama Cass in the daisies.
Oh,
she was a free spirit, wasn't she?
What a kid.
She was
She was great.
Yeah.
This was just her kind of humor, too.
In the
Cass
beginning, though, wasn't
frolicking.
she a little intimidated by you, Michelle?
Well, she always said that she would never allow us to be seen together on stage. She would never let the public make that distinction, that physical distinction between us. But Cass got a lot of strength from her public.
Sure,
I mean, once Cass became a star, she wasn't afraid of anybody, and certainly not me.
Now we have a letter to Michelle from all three other group members terminating her membership.
Yes.
They actually wrote you a formal letter, huh?
The three of them fired me, and there it is, John Phillips, Denny Doherty, and Cass Elliott.
And was this because of your affair with Dennis?
Well, it started with my affair with Dennis. And then John and I separated, and I had an affair with Jean Clark. If it had not been somebody that was in the public eye or a peer, I think it would not have mattered so much to him, but John was not going to take this from this little mama anymore.
He was embarrassed.
He was embarrassed by it, and he gave Denny and Cass an ultimatum. You know, she goes or I go, and there was no question as to who was going to stay under those conditions.
So you were out then for almost a year?
No. I was only out actually for a few, I was out for about 2.5 months.
2.5 months.
But,
and then came the big reconciliation.
Yeah.
And we have a picture of that as well.
There we are. The mama's happy again.
Michelle, welcomed back.
Yeah.
And
Don't we look sweet?
Now here's...
that's a knife she has in my back.
Now here's Gina, who is now, of course...
China is 18 now.
China's 18.
She hates this picture. Anyhow, she turned out to be quite a beauty. She's about 5'7" and real cute. And
looks like her mother?
She looks very much like her mother.
Terrific. And Dennis, whatever happened to him?
Dennis Doherty?
Yeah.
Dennis and John are on the road.
They're still with the Mamas and the Papas.
They are on the road with the group that they refer to as the Mamas and the Papas.
Right. So it seems like 3 out of the 4 of you had happy endings so far, right? Outside of poor Cass, you know. And that.
Right. No, I think that the only one who really had a terrible experience was John. Cass, of course, we lost Cass in '75. And she died of a massive heart attack.
Yep.
It was tragic, but in a way, I was shocked, but not surprised, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because, you know, she was, of course, terribly overweight, and she dieted a lot. And she would drop 30 pounds and then gain it back again, and it was
too much for her system.
Too much for her, yeah.
Well, pause. We'll come right back with Michelle Phillips and talk about the Mamas and the Papas some more. Just asking Michelle if her daughter, who is now 18, has had a chance to read the book. And
she doesn't want to. She wants to wait until everything has calmed down a bit. Because, believe me, in my house, you know, I'll be reading Papa John, and I go, what?
What did he say?
I can't believe what he said. She'll say, Mom, like, pull yourself together. It's all right. It's just a book. And well, read this. I mean, this is utter lies, darling, utter lies.
It's absolutely so unusual that, you know, man and woman would have two books out at the same time. But in any event, a lot of fun reading this book. And if you want to reminisce about the mamas and papas, it's all here. California Dreaming by Michelle Phillips, who begins her tour of the country today. Thank you very much for being with us, Michelle. Nice to have you here.
Thanks.
That's it for Lifestyles, everybody. Hope to see you again real soon. And bye-bye for now.